Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 17th March 2016. The first article is related to the transformation which is going on in Myanmar. You know that the Thein Sein, the military ruler, he has initiated the democratic transformation in Myanmar. The important steps in this are the recent elections in which the Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD has won the significant majority. So if you see the constitutional arrangement, Aung San Suu Kyi cannot be the president of the Myanmar, and she has deployed her close aide U Tin Kya as the president. Now if you see the parliament of the Myanmar, still the military has the control over it. The 1/4 of the seats they will reserve for the military, and no amendment in the constitution can be taken forward without the approval of these people. And most important departments such as home, border management, defense, these are still in the control of the military. And military recently, it has appointed a vice president, a military vice president, and his name is Mayan Sway. It shows the appointment of a general as a vice president who has a very authoritarian track history. It shows that military wants to still continue its hegemony. On the other hand, the Myanmar's economic situation is a very at a difficult stage. So in this context, the precarious economic situation, the power arrangement between the new president and the Aung San Suu Kyi, and the military control over the democracy, these are all the challenges through which the Myanmar has to navigate. Now this next article is related to the caste atrocities and recent Udmal Pate in Tamil Nadu and killing of a Dalit man. Now, especially there is a rapid transformation in Tamil Nadu after the Dalit movement has come up. And also the reservations have provided for Dalits to get high up in the economic ladder. So there is a sense of decrease in social distance among the upper castes. So in this context, the purity of the woman, purity of the caste, hegemonic status of the caste, these are the new prejudices that have come up, or else these are the strong old prejudices which are becoming much stronger. So in this context, it is taking the form of a violence. If you come to the North India, you have these Kap Panchayats, and the reason in the North India is a bit different. So it is more of a gender dimension along with the caste dimension in North India. The worsening of the sex ratio, it has led to the prevention of the girls from getting married outside the caste. So in this context, in the South India, it is mostly of a caste dimension rather than gender dimension. And in South India, there is another thing, that is the politics are also regrouped and arranged across the caste lines. And political capital is built around this particular, the extrajudicial killings. Even North India, this is existing. You can see Naveen Jindal, Mr. Khattar, the CM of Haryana, supporting the Kaps and their role in the society. So in this context, no strong law can eliminate these things unless society progresses itself. So any progressive society cannot deprive a man and a woman of their marital choice. So in this context, by use of force, intimidation, etc., limiting one's independent choices and rights, these are the faces, or these are the representation of a digressive society. Now, coming to the MCLA issue. The MCLA is a Murthy funded, the son of Narayana Murthy funded Murthy Classical Library of India. So this Murthy Classical Library, funded by Mr. Rohan Murthy, the objective is to develop an English translation for all the classical texts and publish them with the proper analysis. So this objective is very laudable as it tries to bring in an exposure to the ancient knowledge of India. So in this context, the person who is heading this is Sheldon Pollock, the professor at Columbia University. So the government of the day and RSS has certain objections to him to continue as the chair of this particular work. So we don't need to get into all those things. We can use this MCLA as an example towards protecting our traditional knowledge, our classical or cultural heritage. Now coming to the Putin-Syria plan, it has three major objectives. The first one is to protect the Baathist state structure. Always the Russia believed that there can be no solution without involvement of the Assad. The West always demanded for solution beyond the Assad or throwing away Mr. Assad in Syria. So in this context, the Baathist state regime has to be protected to maintain the stability in Syria. This is what Russia believed in. And this shift of power has happened. Now the West, United States also recognizes that all the parties shall be involved with the peace plan and engagement. And this very objective is achieved by the Russia. And the second thing is, Russia wants to bring in Assad and also the opposition non-jihadist parties to the discussion table. So in this context, there is a challenge over here. What is that? Many are non-jihadist only. So Russia has developed a kind of an animosity with the Gulf rulers because many of the Gulf rulers, they are supporting the jihadist opposition factions in Syria. So in this context, what the Russia wanted to do is it wants to bring the opposition parties and also Assad across the negotiation table for a sustainable peace. And finally, Russia has some strategic interests. Syria is the country where outside the previous USSR, Russia has the naval and the air base now. So in this context, so all the three objectives are achieved by the Putin regime. That's why strategically it has withdrew from the Syria. So in this context, the Geneva peace talks, ceasefire agreement, they are expected to move forward and the engagement can find a strong sustainable solution to the Syrian crisis. And coming to the GIs, the GIs, they stand for geographical indicators. So a particular special quality of a product, if it is related to the location, that is either to the geographical region, then the special attributes for that product will be given a GI status. So understand, the geographical indication provides an affinity of a product to a region, and then it provides for certain quality standards how it has to be produced. It do not prohibit the outsiders from producing the product. Even I can produce the product, but however I have to stick to these quality standards which are prescribed. So for this registration of the GIs, we have an office in Chennai. But however, the major problem in India is the quality standards for every GI registered are not properly stated. Because the GIs are very important economic value, the people, they recollect and identify a particular product with a particular region, the Darjeeling tea. So like that, there is a special association with the region. So it creates an economic value and also rural employment. So that's why India also has to raise its standards and quality specifications with regard to the GI. Now, Aadhaar bill is passed in the parliament. So let us see what are the problems with the Aadhaar bill and what are the recommendations given. Now, under the Aadhaar, in the national security, the joint secretary level officer, if he authorizes, the information can be made available to the government officials. So in this case, the national security is not well defined. So what the opposition sought is, in the place of the national security, public emergency or in the interest of the public safety have to be placed. And the next is, Aadhaar shall not be a compulsory, it has to be voluntary. Though if I have the Aadhaar now, tomorrow if I want to opt out from the Aadhaar, then I shall be able to make a recommendation to the government, and the government has to delete all my information which is there with the UID within 15 days. And the next is, in these circumstances, if Aadhaar is not there, my other identity cards shall be made valid to get the governmental services. And oversight not to get it misused, we shall have CVC or CAG as the oversight officers and direct access to the courts. Now, if we have a complaint about disclosure of our information or false release of our information, then we have to go to the UID, and UID has right to access to the courts. So in this context, the citizen shall have a direct right to access the courts. It is what is the amendment which has been demanded for. And finally, Aadhaar shall be only for specified purposes. The law specifies certain purposes for the use of the Aadhaar, but however the same law also allows the extension of the use of the Aadhaar for the other purposes too. So the opposition demands that Aadhaar shall be confined to the purposes which are stated in law. If it has to be extended tomorrow, an amendment has to be brought in and it has to be put for discussion again. So these are the debate. Now move on special audit. Now in the previous videos we saw that the CAG has found out certain erroneous understatements with regard to the telecom companies, which has caused 12,000 crores of loss to the exchequer. Now the government has ordered for a special audit on this. So the special audit is ordered only for the last 3 years accounts. So why this special audit is questioned? So the CAG audit is said to be highly professional in its standard. So why can't we take the CAG's audit? Why can't the CAG conduct the special audit? These are the questions are before the government. Now coming to the new civil aviation policy, it has to address 3 major issues. One is this 5/20 rule. If an airline has to operate the international flights, it has to have a minimum existence of 5 years or minimum 20 aircrafts. And the second thing is connectivity to the secondary cities. As of now, the government has fixed the upper price shall be 2,500 rupees for 500 kilometers or less. So the government is talking about viability gap funding and making new airports or airstrips available for this particular purpose. And the third thing is maintenance and repair and overhaul facility. The government wants to increase the business proposals for the MRO. So let us see what the new aviation policy and how it tries to address these things. Now, government admits the sedition definition is wide. Under section 124A, anything against to the government can be called as a sedition. So the sedition law under section 124A of IPC is misused. So in this context, what is sedition has to be defined very specifically and narrowly. So the Law Commission is given with this responsibility, and let us see the outcomes of that. And the next is NPS can now be technically tax free. What does this mean? Now the government has offered 40% of the NPS amount saved out of the tax net, and the remaining there is a compulsory provision that the 40% of the money has to be kept in the annuity bonds. So it means 40% is already tax free and 40% you must share in the annuity, which you will get after retirement as a fixed amounts to you. So in this case, already these annuity investments are non-taxable. So in this context, what we can say is only 20% of the NPS is taxable. If a person is interested to keep the 60% of annuity, 60% of NPS amount, the new pension scheme amount into annuity, so total NPS amount becomes free from the tax. Now coming to the Indian Express newspaper, the treatment in India, it is related to the medical tourism. So what are the major challenges to the medical tourism? And the potential of the medical tourism is not realized, and also the value which is realized is understated. So in this context, the first challenge is related to the visas. So many cases, the government gives special medical visas for the medical tourism, but it has many complicated requirements. And the second is the proper information delivery or lack of information asymmetry. It is making these people dependent more and more on the third party information or dependent on the middleman, which is increasing its costs unbearably. So in this context, the government shall provide for visa on arrival for these people, simplify the visa norms. And the second thing is, government also has to popularize NABH, National Accreditation Board for Hospital and Healthcare Providers, which lists all the credible hospitals and the treatments they provide for. And actually, these NABH standards are close to the International Society for Quality in Healthcare standards, that is ISQA standards. So, the government did not provide for the necessary publicity required for NABH. And so, this information asymmetry can be addressed if it can market the NABH standards. And the second article, it is related to the communal violence, how it is transforming itself into the violence against women. Generally, during a communal violence, the immediate associated thing is the rape or murder of the woman. So why this happens? The woman is seen as a pride of the family, and any taking away, or else violence against her is seen as a taking away of the pride of the family. So this crime generally happens in the neighborhood, and in this case the public access or access to the public spaces for the woman is decreasing. In this context, without proper access to the public spaces, women empowerment is a myth. Coming to the Sutlej Yamuna link. So let's talk about this Punjab SYL bill. So in this case, the Punjab in 2014, if you remember, annulment of the agreements bill was passed by the Punjab, and then it was referred to the Supreme Court by the President of India under Article 143. And the next is, now the Punjab Assembly has passed, that is the Punjab Sutlej Yamuna Link Canal Land Transfer of Property or Proprietary Rights Bill 2016. So what are the various constitutional provisions which it is violating? One is under Article 246, interstate transfer or interstate rivers. These are in the union list. So in this case, the state parliament cannot, the state legislature cannot make any law, only union parliament can. And the second is, already with regard to the sharing of the waters between Punjab and Haryana, it is under the Supreme Court, and it was referred to the Supreme Court by the President of India. And added to that, Punjab Reorganization Act is the guiding factor for the laws between Punjab and Haryana. So under this, Bakra Bias Management Board was constituted, and it is responsible for the Sutlej Yamuna link and all. So it means the Punjab Reorganization Act was made by the centre, and only the centre can amend that. So in this context, what is article suggesting is, under Article 200, the governor has to reserve the bill for the consideration of the President of India. Next is, here Mr. Neelakanta Mishra's article is about Uday, that is Ujjwal Diskam Awas Yojana. You know that most of the state governments discoms, they are suffering from the losses. The reasons include the states populist measures to provide for the free power to the farmers, etc. In this case, the discoms across the country in various states are in the losses. What the Uday scheme says is, all the debt of the discom has to be taken by the state, and state has to issue the bonds for that purpose. In the first year, it will be 50% of the debt, the bonds will be issued by the state, and the next year it will be 25%. And the remaining 25% of the debt has to be cleared by the discoms through their own bonds. And these bonds also will be supported by the state or state guarantees. So in this context, what is the advantage to the states? Now these bonds which are issued by the states, developmental bonds, they do not add up to the fiscal deficit and FRBM targets of the state. So it means, in a way, Uday is transferring the responsibility of the health of the discoms to the states. So this is what is the major article is about. Now, the major complaint about the Uday is, the finances of the states have gone to the Uday or else the discom financing. Because of this, the finances are not available for the other developmental programs, and it clearly argues that the lack of finances, it is due to the credit crunch and due to the NPA issues in the banks. It cannot be directly related to the transfer of the finances to the states. Are banks buying the bonds of the states? No, it is not. So these are the various articles for today. Now let us see the discussion on the yesterday's article. It talks about increase in agricultural income. agricultural income need to be increased. This is the only way forward for the rural distress. Suggest the measures and in the light of the new budgetary proposals, how to increase the agricultural income, so or else income of the farmers. The first one is non-farm income. So you can talk about the dairy and supportive incomes. And also women-centric income. You can talk about the SHG movements. And connectivity to the rural areas. So the connectivity increases the wider markets for the rural areas. And the agricultural markets are highly filled with the middlemen, and APM Markets Act has to be reformed. So Agricultural Produce Marketing Committees Act, it has to be renewed in the many states, which provides them the greater access. And also the commercial crop failures, we can provide for the insurance support. So these are the 5-6 points we can talk about. Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana, and then we can talk about the government and MG Narega, what is the recent budget proposal about, and also the rural roads, Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana, the irrigation, what are the benefits it causes under the present budget. So all these things are the recent initiatives which are taken by the government to improve the income of the farmers. So these 5 points and these 5 points, 10 points, the 200 votes will be sufficient. And again, my advice is this: don't try to give more number of points. Give few points, organize them with the side headings, and provide the concrete points under that. So this is yielding good number of marks this year. Thank you very much. All the best.